Welcome to this week's episode of Jonathan on Money. This is episode number 160. Well, salutations and welcome back, everybody. This podcast should drop a bit before I leave on my trip to Israel, assuming Iran stops shooting missiles and my plane actually takes off. One thing I was thinking about throughout my preparations is how much time and effort goes into planning these trips. Have an itinerary or have multiple activities booked per day in order to make the most of our time there, so we also have a meaningful experience and enjoyable experience. Beyond activities, I also made note of places we'll eat, walks we'll go on, and people we plan to get together with. While many people may mock the level of detail I get into when I plan my vacations, the reality is having a plan helps me accomplish more and allows me to have a more enjoyable time. The same thing's true with one's finances. For those who have a plan, it will allow them to make the most of their money and accomplish more with the time and resource that they have. Just a thought for those who have not yet got their finances in order. And in case you're wondering, yes, I could tie anything and everything back to investments or financial planning. In other news, don't forget to buy my book, D's for Diversification, the ABCs of Personal Finance, which is now available on Amazon or at jonathanonmoney.com. Buying this book is a wonderful way to support this podcast. And finally, before jumping into this week's episode, I'd like to share that my upcoming live spring webinar series will continue on Thursday, May 28th at 8:30 a.m. featuring Asher Lowenstein, founder of Lowenstein Legal PLLC, based on Long Island, New York. And Asher is going to be discussing designing resilient estate plans, planning to avoid litigation, and I'll include the registration information in the show notes to this episode. Okay, now for today's agenda. My talking points this week will discuss financial planning strategies for the Gvirim among us. Our quote this week is from Scott Clary on scheduling happiness. I'll spend the last half of the episode answering listeners' questions, including tips for negotiating a higher salary. And finally, we'll end with an actionable idea to implement your investing life, where we'll discuss assessing your income sources and expenses. And with that, let's jump into this week's talking points. So I actually received a question in response to my talking points from a few weeks ago, and let me read you what the email said. Several weeks ago, your talking points were geared toward families who are financially struggling. I'd appreciate your thoughts on the other end of the spectrum. I'm wealthy and not ashamed to admit it. I work hard, make sacrifices, and I have experienced significant financial success. Are there financial planning or investment tips you would recommend for someone in my situation? First, allow me to say kol hakavod on your success. While wealthy families may not worry about paying monthly bills, they face a different and sometimes more complex set of challenges. As wealth increases, so does exposure to lawsuits, taxes, poor investment decisions, complicated family dynamics, and also spiritual drift. Thoughtful planning becomes essential. I'm going to share an overview of key areas affluent investors or Gvirim should prioritize. First is asset protection. In the United States, lawsuits are common. When you have substantial assets, you can become a larger target. This can be due to business dealings, professional liability, property ownership, or unfortunate accidents. The first line of defense is proper insurance coverage. This typically includes, and I'm going to list a whole bunch of them, umbrella liability insurance, which provides additional protection, often 1 to 10 million or more above home and auto policies. It can cover major claims such as severe injuries, defamation, or large property damage lawsuits. There's home liability insurance, which covers injuries on your property, including slip and fall incidents or dog bites. Auto liability insurance, which people are familiar with, it protects against claims arising from car incidents, accidents involving bodily injury or property damage. There's professional liability, error and omissions, which is essential for advisors, accountants, lawyers, consultants, and medical professionals. Many people listening to this. It covers claims related to negligence or professional mistakes. There's medical malpractice insurance, which protects against healthcare professionals against malpractice claims. There's general liability insurance, which covers business-related injuries, property damage, and certain advertising claims. There's director and officers insurance, which protects executives and board members from lawsuits tied to governance or fiduciary decisions. Beyond insurance, proper asset structuring is critical. This may include maximizing creditor-protected retirement accounts using LLCs for real estate and business ventures, titling assets correctly, and utilizing trusts where appropriate. Proactive planning creates legal barriers that discourage litigation and protect your nest egg. The next consideration is protecting your family. Protecting assets from lawsuits is one thing. Protecting your family from disruption is another. If something were to happen to the primary breadwinner, adequate life and disability insurance ensures continuity of lifestyle and financial stability. Wealth does not eliminate the need for insurance. In many cases, it increases the complexity of planning. Business owners should also have properly structured buy-sell agreements funded with insurance. This protects both family members and business partners in the event of death or disability, ensuring orderly transition and liquidity. Planning for worst case scenarios is not pessimistic. It is responsible stewardship of your wealth. There's also advanced estate planning. Basic estate documents are not sufficient in high net worth families. Once your estate approaches or exceeds federal or state exemption thresholds, estate tax exposure becomes a serious concern. Advanced strategies include SLATs or spousal lifetime access trusts, GRATs, which are grantor retained annuity trusts, dynasty trusts, and IGITs, intentionally defected grantor trusts. These tools can reduce estate taxes, shift depreciation out of your taxable estate, and preserve wealth for future generations. It is essential to work with a competent estate planning attorney who specializes in high net worth families and to review your plan annually. Laws change, asset values fluctuate, planning must evolve accordingly. And here's another consideration, which is tax mitigation. At higher levels of wealth, taxes become one of the largest ongoing risks to long-term growth. Even modest annual tax drag can significantly erode compounding over time. Effective tax planning involves more than simply reducing income taxes in a given year. It includes strategic asset location, which is placing tax inefficient assets in tax advantage accounts and tax efficient investments in taxable accounts. There's tax loss harvesting, which is selling investments that are down to realize a loss that you can use to offset taxes on gains. The money is then reinvested so your long-term strategy stays on track. There's also gifting strategies and estate freeze techniques. These include techniques that shift future appreciation out of your estate by transferring assets early, often at discounted values. Tools like GRATs, FLPs, and sales to irrevocable trusts lock in today's value and so growth accrues to heirs, reducing future estate taxes. Asset location is often overlooked and can meaningfully improve after-tax returns, and coordinating investment management with tax planning ensures your portfolio works efficiently over decades, not just during filing season. Next is having a strategic framework for giving, and I bring this up often. Wealthy families are frequently approached by charities locally and abroad. While many causes are worthy, you must determine which missions align with your values and priorities. Creating a philanthropic framework allows you to invest in causes you align with and confidently say no to others. There are numerous charitable planning vehicles available, including donor advised funds or DAFs, private foundations, charitable remainder elite trusts, charitable gift annuities, qualified charitable distributions or QCDs from IRAs. In certain years, donating appreciated assets or bunching charitable contributions may provide additional tax advantages. Coordinating with financial and tax advisors ensures your tzedakah strategy is thoughtful, efficient, and impactful. Another key point that is often overlooked by the wealthy is avoiding big mistakes. Being wealthy does not make you immune to poor decisions. Affluent investors often become targets for unscrupulous salespeople eager to fund speculative strategies with their capital. They are frequently approached with private deals, exclusive funds, hedge fund strategies, venture opportunities, and complex financial products. Some may be legitimate, many are unnecessary, a few will be disastrous. It's important to recognize that being rich doesn't mean you're special, especially not in the investment world. The investment landscape has become democratized. Many of the best tools for building wealth are widely accessible. Successful investing is rarely about chasing the highest returns or accessing the most exclusive opportunities. It's about implementing a disciplined process and sticking with it over the long term. Any money manager who focuses primarily on big returns rather than process, risk management, and long term planning should raise red flags and be avoided. It's also important to maintain proper perspective with all this. All material success ultimately comes from Hashem. What he gives you, he can also take away. That perspective fosters humility, gratitude, and responsibility. It reinforces that we're all stewards of the resources entrusted to us, and we should use those resources to enhance our lives and communities. Many wealthy individuals struggle not because of financial mismanagement, but because of misplaced identity. Regardless of your net worth, your identity should not be tied to money, nor should wealth be broadcast for validation. It's essential for parents to model these values for their children. Teach them financial literacy. Encourage work even if your children will never need the income. Involve them in philanthropy so they understand the power of responsibility of wealth. Don't insulate them from responsibility, hard work, and real world consequences. The greatest legacy you can leave will not be your portfolio, it will be your values. And here's just a final thought. For affluent families, financial planning is less about maximizing returns and more about integration. It's about aligning insurance, risk management, tax strategy, estate planning, and investing, philanthropy, and one's values into a cohesive framework. When approached thoughtfully, wealth becomes more than a measure of material success. It becomes a tool for stewardship, stability, and making a meaningful impact. Okay, those were the talking points for this week. And as a reminder, you can be notified of all my recent articles, webinars, and all the work I put out by subscribing to my free monthly newsletter at parkbridgewealth.com/newsletter. This week's quote is from Scott Clary. For those who don't know, Scott Clary is an entrepreneur, investor, and author. He hosts the Successful Story podcast, where he has candid conversations with some of the most prolific business and thought leaders in the world. And the podcast ranks as a top 10 business podcast, top 3 educational and self-development podcast, and has over 100 million downloads, almost where I am. Throughout his career, Scott has led sales and marketing teams across multiple organizations, playing key roles in company growth and acquisition. His weekly business newsletter reached over 321,000 subscribers, sharing valuable insights from his experiences throughout his career. And Clary posted online the following: underrated life advice. Schedule your fun first. The vacation, the dinner, the concert, the weekend trip. Put joy on the calendar before work fills it. Most people work first, play with what's left. There's never anything left. Book fun like meetings. Treat joy like obligation. Happiness needs planning too. This is a fantastic quote, and it resonates because it flips the usual script of adult life. Most people let work, obligations, and logistics expand until they consume every open space, and joy becomes whatever scraps remain. The quote captures a simple truth, which is fun does not happen by accident. It happens when it is treated as something worthy of planning, structure, and commitment. What makes the message powerful is its practicality. It does not romanticize the spontaneity or pretend that happiness magically appears. Instead, it reframes joy as something that deserves the same respect we give to meetings, deadlines, and responsibilities. Put it on the calendar, protect it, and let the rest of life adjust around it. It's also a reminder that if you do not intentionally create room for the things that make life meaningful, the world will fill your schedule for you, and it will not fill it with joy. I should note that I practice what I preach every week on mine and my wife's calendars. We have a brunch date. It doesn't always work out every week, but it certainly occurs more frequently since we both have a recurring meeting on our respective calendars. I also take my vacations seriously, as you probably tell from my opening remarks. I spend months planning them, and I'm religious about going away. I think a change of scenery is not only helpful for my mental health, but it also improves my professional life as well. Ultimately, this quote is an important reminder that the whole purpose of working is to make money, to enhance your life. Make sure to make time for this enjoyment because that's what life is all about. Okay, now let's jump into this week's financial questions. And if you do have a question, feel free to submit it to me, and it may be answered in a future episode. Okay, the first question. With the holiday of Shavuos around the corner, do you have any top 10 financial planning lists you can share with Oilam? So I love top 10 lists, and I'm always happy to share one. Let me share the top 10 financial commandments for retirees as they approach retirement. This is something I shared with clients recently, and it was well received. In the theme of the holiday, I'll list each of them as a commandment. Commandment number one, streamline your finances. Organiz- uh, Organization becomes increasingly important as you age. Managing multiple accounts across different institutions can become unnecessarily complex and stressful. Consolidating accounts where appropriate, including old retirement plans and investment accounts, creates clarity and simplifies oversight. It also ensures that a trusted family member can step in more seamlessly if needed. A streamlined financial structure reduces friction and allows for more confident decision making. Commandment number two is to pay off your debt. Debt can be useful during working years, but it becomes far less attractive in retirement when income is typically fixed. Carrying debt introduces additional expenses and uncertainty that can strain cash flow. Entering retirement debt free provides flexibility and peace of mind, allowing your resources to support your lifestyle rather than service obligations. And again, paying off debt also means paying off your mortgage in full. Commandment number three, implement the correct asset allocation. Retirement today often lasts decades. Many individuals will spend 20 or 30 years or more at this phase of life, which means their portfolios must continue to grow. Maintaining exposure to equities is essential to outpace inflation and preserve purchasing power. At the same time, having sufficient cash and fixed income provides stability during market downturns. A balanced portfolio should allow you to weather volatility while sustaining long-term spending needs. Commandment number four is to claim Social Security at the right time. Social Security is a foundational income source for many retirees, and the timing of when you claim benefits has a lasting impact. While benefits can begin as early as age 62, claiming early reduces monthly payments. Delaying benefits beyond full retirement age increases payouts by approximately 8% per year until age 70. For those in good health who do not need immediate income, waiting can significantly enhance long-term financial security. Commandment number five is to determine your safe withdrawal rate. And a safe withdrawal rate defines how much you can take from your portfolio each year without risking depletion. The commonly referenced 4% rule provides a starting point, but the appropriate rate depends on lifestyle, longevity, expectations, legacy goals. Establishing a disciplined withdrawal strategy helps ensure that your assets support you throughout retirement while aligning with any desire to leave money to family or charitable causes. Commandment number six is to plan for long-term care needs. Long-term care is one of the most significant and uncertain expenses retirees face. It includes assistance with daily activities and is not typically covered by Medicare. Planning ahead allows you to evaluate options such as self-funding, insurance, or Medicaid strategies. Addressing this risk early provides greater flexibility and helps protect both assets and family members from unexpected burdens. Commandment number seven is proactively downsize. Many retirees delay downsizing and end up making decisions under pressure later in life. Moving earlier can simplify your lifestyle, reduce expenses, and place you in a home better suited for aging. A proactive approach allows you to make thoughtful decisions on your own terms rather than reacting to changing circumstances. Commandment number eight, get rid of your stuff. Accumulated possessions can become a burden over time. Gradually distributing items to family members or donating them allows you to see others benefit while reducing clutter. It also spares your heirs from having to manage these decisions later. Simplifying your physical environment often brings a sense of clarity and relief. Commandment number nine, move near family. As people age, reliance on others naturally increases. Living closer to family can provide both sacrifices, support, and meaningful connection. It allows for easier participation in family events and reduces the stress associated with distance during times of need. While relocating can be difficult, doing so earlier often leads to smoother and more enjoyable transition. And finally, commandment number 10 is develop a daily routine in retirement, something I really cover often, but it's very important to reemphasize. Work provides structure, purpose, and social interaction. Without a plan, many retirees struggle to replace these elements. Developing a daily routine that includes a meaningful activity such as part-time work, volunteering, or personal projects is essential. Retirement should be something you move towards, not simply something you leave behind. Having clearly defined goals and activities helps maintain both mental and physical well-being. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive list, but it does highlight the foundational elements of a successful retirement. Next question, what tips do you recommend for negotiating higher salary? So I've never negotiated for a higher salary in my life, so I'm the wrong person to ask. However, this won't stop me from opining on this question as if I am an expert on compensation and negotiation techniques. My compensation has always been based on my ability to grow my business and grow my existing clients' wealth. Thankfully, I've been able to do both of those things over the course of my career, and subsequently, my income has gone up. That being said, my advice is to figure out a way to contribute to the bottom line of whatever company you work for. After all, the hardest part of any job is business development. If you can demonstrate that you are a rainmaker, then you will have the leverage to negotiate your salary. If your current employer doesn't offer you enough money, then you can take your skills elsewhere. Figure out a way to bring in business and you'll be all set. If you're one of the people that is listening to this and you think that you don't need to bring in revenue or that you are not in a sales role, then you are mistaken. Every business is about sales and revenue. Technical expertise is replaceable. There's another smart yid that can perform your job expertly for less money. Trust me, this applies to law, medicine, every area. However, there are not so many people that can drive sales. Hope all listeners take this message to heart. Next question. The economic news is concerning, and I think we're in for recession. My question is not the merits of my analysis or conclusion, but how to make my portfolio recession proof. Thanks. So there's no such thing as a recession-proof portfolio. Anyone who uses this phrase, i.e., many large financial institutions or the talking heads on the financial news networks, are just trying to sell you something or get your attention. The reality is that the best you could do is to mitigate the impacts of a challenging economy or market, but you can never avoid it altogether. For example, if you're only invested in the S&P 500 and the US stock market or economy is struggling, your portfolio will also struggle. If you're only in international stocks, then your portfolio will struggle when overseas market plummet. You can move to bonds, but won't achieve long-term returns that outpace inflation and will struggle as interest rates change. You can diversify, which you should do, but that means at least one part of your portfolio will always struggle while others will perform better. My advice is to focus less on building a recession-proof portfolio, which is impossible, and instead focus on when you need your money. One's time horizon will dictate how to properly allocate your capital. Next question. In my pursuit of achieving alpha with my investment portfolio, what do you recommend I do to increase my probability of accomplishing this? Before answering your Shyla, here's a quick overview of investment alpha. Investment alpha is a measure of how much an investment or portfolio outperforms its benchmark after adjusting for market risk. It reflects the value added by active management beyond what would be earned passively. The truth is that generating alpha is overrated. I understand why intelligent people have a desire to outperform the market, but an obsession with alpha can be detrimental to your investment plan. It leads to unnecessary risks, more portfolio changes, and a short-term mindset. Additionally, there's the fact that beating the market is hard. You will not win any awards if you generate alpha. You'll just increase the likelihood of blowing up your nest egg. The key purpose to investing is the ability to achieve your goals and live the life you want. if you if you achieve this goal, which can always be done, even without a top decile performance, then that's what all that actually matters. You may not feel that way, but it's the truth. Also note I wrote an article a few years ago for CNBC on the real way for investors to generate alpha. If you're interested in seeing that, please email me and I could send you a link, or you can search for it online. How do you manage hundreds of portfolios and not make them all the same? I don't know how many clients you have, but presumably you manage at least several hundred. How do you scale? When I first started in this business, I tried to be all things to all people, different investment strategies for different clients. Some people traded a lot and some not at all. Some clients wanted thematic ideas and other strategies. As my business matured and I gained more experience, I realized that I know what works and I know what doesn't. I have a process that increases the probability of clients being successful while also minimizing risk. If someone doesn't buy into that philosophy, they should go somewhere else. No hard feelings. This preamble is to highlight the fact that at this point, all my clients buy into my overarching philosophy, which makes it a lot easier to manage many client relationships when you are implementing the same philosophy across the board. Sure, the portfolios will vary based on client specific circumstances, but there is software that helps that aspect of the management. A decade or two ago, it would be much harder to successfully scale a business. Today, if your clients are similar, then it's easier to scale if they buy into your core beliefs. I also have a very strict no jerk policy, which is a huge time saver. About 7 years ago, I met with a family office. It was a bunch of strong personalities, strong opinions from fancy schools who all knew better than everyone else. After our fifth or sixth meeting, I decided that no matter how much money these people were going to give me, it was not worth the headache of having to deal with them on an ongoing basis. Life is too short to have an annoying client eat up your life. Since then, I've streamlined my clients by only taking on easygoing people and getting rid of the people who are pains in the tush. This is a massive time saver and also makes it easier and more efficient to manage funds for my many clients. The bottom line is my firm philosophy has to be universally accepted by all new and existing clients. Each client strategy has to be personal to the client's needs, but fit it within my overarching philosophy. And the clients need to be pleasant and to deal with. This mix gives me the ability to scale my business and manage many accounts seamlessly. Okay, that's it for my financial questions this week. And by the way, if you have a more involved personal finance situation, feel free to reach out directly to me, and perhaps my team and I can help you. The best way to get a hold of me is via email at jonathan@parkbridgewealth.com. And finally, I like to end with a timely and actionable idea that listeners can implement to their own financial lives. And today's timely idea is regarding retirement readiness. Before handing in your resignation letter, it's important to be sure to assess your income, sources, and expenses. Creating a budget for a multi-decade retirement is not practical. Prices change, unforeseen expenses arise, and life takes unpredictable turns. However, there needs to be a general calculation to determine if you can afford a particular lifestyle. This computation doesn't need to involve anything fancy. Start by listing all your income sources such as Social Security, pension, and portfolio or rental income. Next, tally your living expenses like food, rent, taxes, and transportation costs. Make sure to also factor in any other costs associated with living the retirement you envision, including travel or hobbies. Finally, ask yourself just two questions. One, does my income exceed my expenses? And two, can I afford to live this lifestyle for the rest of my life? If the answer to either of these questions is no, then changes must be made. You can consider working longer, even part time, moving to a cheaper locale, or adjusting your retirement lifestyle. And with that, it's a wrap for this week's show. Any comments or questions, feel free to reach out directly to me via email. I love hearing from my listeners. And finally, the secret to financial success is no secret at all. It's to spend less than you make, invest the difference prudently, and ignore all the noise. See you next time on Jonathan on Money.